You ready?
I'm double ready
I almost
for Double Dead.
Welcome back, friends.
Welcome back.
It's time for another episode, a book club episode. Our
special once a month.
Yeah, our August monthly book club episode where we will be discussing the complete Double Dead by Chuck Wendig.
Which is a duology.
It's a book and a novella. So if you didn't read the complete Double Dead, pause because we're going to spoil the shit out of the wrap-up novella for you. If you just read the first one, it's short, the second one.
Oh, yeah.
Read it in an hour, come back, listen to the podcast. It's fine. Chuck Wendig, this was his debut novel. The first one. It's
an impressive debut novel.
And then he comes back and writes the wrap-up later.
Okay.
So, before we get started, hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. All right, I want your hot takes on this book immediately because this is like the third time I've read it, but this was the first time you have read anything like this, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go. Go.
So I would say
yeah.
This is like a mix between Harry Dresden and Cassidy from Preacher.
Oh, yeah, that's a really accurate description of the character.
Yes, that's my...
Competent but unhinged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have all of the unhingedness of Cassidy from Preacher. With the, like, deep down, he wants to be a good person.
Later, I think.
Later, yeah. And then the Harry Dresden, like, urban fantasy vibe, like, action vibe.
It is very action-y.
Yes.
This is not a romance.
And I love the, like, sensual language.
Sensual language.
Sensual, not in a sexy way.
Yeah.
But sensual in evoking of the senses.
Yes. Like the creme brulee tongue.
The creme brulee tongue, my intestines sat in my hands like a pile of bloody sausages.
He does have a way of describing things.
Yes.
I think that where it's most on display in a like visceral, disgusting way is the cannibals in the Walmart. When he's being eaten by Ambrosia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's describing like what parts she likes best and then she gives him the cannibal's kiss to get to his tongue. Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole scene is fucking wild. I can't imagine you have never written, or maybe he's written other books, but you're not published and you take this to a publisher and you're like,
this is bold.
All right, hold. This go be good. I didn't know this, but Chuck Wendig wrote the book that comes between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Oh.
And I think it's called Aftermath.
He wrote the canon
Yes.
book? Okay.
Yeah, he wrote the like canonically published. This is the events that bridge Return of the Jedi, and I don't know if they bridge it, but it comes between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And I was like, "Oh, Chuck, you made it!" Woo-hoo. He does have another series. I think it's Merriam Blackbird. Anyway, it almost made it to become a television show, and he definitely recycles this voice. For Miriam.
Gotcha.
Which I'm fine with. I like this voice. What did you think of Coburn as a character?
I liked Coburn as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the growth. He's the villain. He starts out as the villain.
Yeah, he definitely starts out as the villain, and kind of circumstances conspire to put him in a situation where he has to be more self-aware.
Yeah.
And that required self-awareness increase produces self-improvement results.
Right. Almost a split where he's no longer one with his monster.
Right.
And then his monster becomes like the voice in his head.
Right. Because at the very beginning, the voice that that he narrates to himself.
You mean when he's nursing on the broken pipe like a baby at a mother's teat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The voice, his like internal monologue is the monster voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's only when he has to like hold himself back that he really develops the like that tiny spark of the human he once was his voice as his internal monologue.
Right.
And as separate from the monster.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's an interesting place to start us off, like at the end. The world has already ended. Everybody is zombies. We know nothing about like the events that happened on the day, everything. We don't really learn. We don't, I mean, we kind of get glimpses in people are still in cars. Everybody is still kind of going about their business as if it was super fast. But we don't find out anything about what happened during the zombie apocalypse.
Right. We don't get a narrative of that.
It's all aftermath. Ugh.
And I like it when we just get dropped into action.
Yeah, and we definitely do. And then we
don't
stop.
know especially when I wonder if this technically counts as isekai.
Please explain isekai for the listeners.
Yes, for the listeners. Okay, isekai is a genre, I think most commonly in like anime, where the character is in one world and then they get teleported or reincarnated or whatever into another world that they are a stranger in. And so they just get, bloop, oh, now I'm like an American in
Stranger in a Strange
like
Land.
Narnia.
Okay.
Like
it kind of is.
Yeah, Narnia would, I think, count as isekai.
I do like how quickly he picks it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I know how to take care of my needs.
Yeah.
And then so the point of view character, we don't have to have a proxy for the viewer or the listener.
Right.
To explain how the world works because they don't know how the world works. I like those kind of introductions to like a universe, a story setting.
Right. And that's very much Coburn when he first wakes up because somebody is killing a deer in the theater.
Yeah, the zombies caught a deer in the theater and its blood is dripping down.
Right. And it wakes him up. And he ends up trying to eat the zombies, but he can't. And then he ends up eating the deer. And then once he's got enough like blood to figure things out, he's like, oh shit, something has happened. And he calls them something different for a while. And then finally he's like, just fucking say it. These zombies. And then he has all those funny names for them at the beginning, like Hausfrau. And
yes, he comes up with little nicknames for them.
Yeah.
Based on
and
what they're wearing.
It works. You believe it everything that he does is believable. I at no point feel like he stretches the Coburn character to achieve something. If I have a nitpick at all, it's that every single character seems to have the same voice. Like Kayla.
Like all the secondary characters?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not Ebby, but Kayla does. Kayla definitely talks to Coburn the way Coburn talks to Kayla. Like immediately. Some of her turns of phrase don't flow as well from her as they do from Coburn.
Makes sense. Yeah,
and then you end up, you're like, oh, it's a little bit jarring. I love the fact that she's like, I forget how old she is, but she smokes. She's like, what's it going to do? Kill me? Because she already has cancer. And I love that we don't explain why Kayla is magical.
Until the very, very end.
Not even then.
I guess we tell a story about something extraordinary that happened to her.
Yeah.
But we don't give like a metaphysical
No, because
explanation.
this is a world where vampires exist, so it's cool. We don't need to explain every little thing. Yeah, she can dream walk. Yes, she can
The
cure people.
Kayla character with the dream walking and the like dreaming the future or dreaming what to do and then the like voice in another person's head after they died reminds me of The Passage, which is there are elements of what happens in The Passage that are similar to elements of how Kayla's character.
Yeah, if you stripped away all of the
exists.
humor and then put it on motherfucking steroids and made it 3,000 pages long, it'd
Yes.
be The Passage.
Yeah.
And added some emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think I really enjoy the Coburn character because he gets to be monstrous, but he also gets to be the hero. We don't have to
Yes,
make him
I do like that.
wholesome. At no point does Coburn ever become what anyone might describe as wholesome.
Right. We never idealize him.
No. He definitely saves the cat, though.
Yep.
This is a rule. This is a hard and fast rule. If you have a
Making
villain,
an emotional connection with the reader.
right? If you have a villainous character who is objectively horrible and it's difficult to get anyone to connect with them, they have to save an animal. They save a cat, or in this case, they save a small dog and name it Cream Puff.
A grungy rat terrier.
I know, I love Cream Puff. I love how quickly Cream Puff.
Does the dog die.com? No.
No, dog does not die. Sorry. Spoiler alert. Hopefully you read the second one. I warned ya.
This is the spoiler that you're allowed to spoil. In some cases required.
Yeah. No, Cream Puff never dies. Even though at one point he's going to eat Cream Puff, and then Cream Puff is like happy, like wagging its tail.
Happy for the
physical
close attention.
contact.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not going to eat you right now. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Yes. Well, you were telling me about Double Dead
Yeah.
when you were reading it the last time. And that's the line that I said.
Yeah.
I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Right. So I guess we could kind of talk through the plot. We did that with Babel, and it seemed like it worked. So we wake up, or Coburn wakes up, and then he very quickly, also while folding in some exposition, which is nice, where we learn about his life. He's like, God damn it, I used to like live in New York. I was like the tick in the center of the web. I got to do whatever I wanted. He basically was in like a drug fog for like 50 years.
He was saddled up to the buffet for 50 years.
Yeah. Not thinking about anything, just like hedonistic, doing exactly what he wanted. Very Cassidy from Preacher, just completely absorbed by the pleasures that his life afforded.
Yeah.
And now those are all gone. Every single one of those trappings is gone. New York is dead. The entirety of New York is dead. And now he has to try to escape it. And almost immediately, we set up our main conflict. Because he's jumping rooftop to rooftop. Somebody grabs his ankle and he ends up falling. And we get a little bit of how the blood magic works. It's basically thaumaturgy, where he can move blood around his body at will.
And I really liked the aspect of it's not the blood itself.
Yeah.
It's the spark of life that the blood contains. And it's like piece of the soul or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, I don't fucking care, but I just know that that's what works.
But in the sense, like in the Dresden Files, there's one of the books where he's a ghost and he's talking to Bob, and he's like, "You're walking around in your bare soul, man," and like he's like lost some of it, and he's like, "No, I've lost some of my soul," and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, it grows back."
Kind of like that, yes. Yeah, he tries to fix his legs, and he doesn't do it fast enough, and a zombie bites him. And then we find out that zombie plus vampire equals super zombie.
Yes.
Or they call them the hunters.
Yeah, that's the name he comes up with.
Yeah, because they are chasing him continuously. But he ends up not dealing with it, because he just doesn't deal with his problems. He just runs away. So he ends up running away. And this is when he like sinks into the water, because the sun's coming up
Yep.
And
Yeah, he jumps in the river to wait out the day.
And then we cut. I love the way he doesn't always show things from Coburn's point of view. Sometimes we get
Right.
these tiny
Like the
little.
very first intro is just describing this blood dripping down through cracks and things, and then it splashes on like his forehead.
Right.
And then, or it splashes on a forehead and then on a nose and a cheek and whatever. And then it finally drips on the tongue.
Right.
And then he like awakens and opens his mouth.
Right. Yeah, he does a good. It's mostly third person limited, where we're almost always from Coburn's point of view, and we get to see in Coburn's head. But every once in a while, we head hop, and sometimes we head hop to these secondary characters we're never going to come back to, and that's what happens here because we talk to where we hear from, like a cannibal guy who's been hanging out right by the river because everybody seems to want to cross the river right there,
And the hospital.
and that's how he just waits and people come to him. And this is also where we pick up Cream Puff.
Yep.
And this guy is eating a cat, which is how you know he's a bad guy. Because he's
An irredeemable
bad guy. And he ends up getting eaten by Coburn. And Coburn's like, yes, like, I'm good now. Now I can finally go do some real hunting. And this is when he picks up Cream Puff. And then he also picks up the scent of the RV. And he ends up chasing the RV. And then we meet our whole group of characters, which is going to be Coburn, obviously, Kayla, who is a young girl who has, like, she had months to live. That was years ago. So she has terminal cancer in a world where you don't get treated.
She's on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And she's not on any medication or anything.
Right. And then the veterinarian, whose name is
Lily.
And Cecilia, probably the most villainous character.
Villainous, and I wouldn't say she's villainous. She's traumatized.
She's true neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True neutral.
Completely out for herself. And Gil, who is chaotic good, neutral good.
I'd say he's neutral good. He's out for protecting himself and Kayla.
Yeah. And Abner.
Yes, Abner.
If there's a problematic representation in the book at all, it's Abner. And the fact that we harp on Abner's weight a lot. This is probably indicative of the time when it was published. It's also because our main character is not a sympathetic character. He's not the type of character who's going to not talk about something sensitive.
Like Abner's umami flavor. On account of the
fat is flavor.
The undead diabetes or the untreated diabetes.
Yeah. He's like, I don't have diabetes. Yeah, I don't know. This is just me being, I don't know if this is just me being sensitive to the fact that we just don't let it go. Like we talk about how big Abner is all the time. Ebby, they call him Ebby.
Yeah.
Although one of my favorite exchanges is Abner or Ebby is he's a fairly like unreactive character. He's he's here. He's just trying to survive. He was a computer programmer. Everything is shit. And he's just been in shock for years. And so he's talking to Coburn, which he immediately accepts what Coburn is because he gets attacked first. And Coburn is like, I'm not calling you Ebby. That sounds like something a child would say. And he's like, yeah, that's what my little brother used to call me. He's dead now. And Coburn's like, oh, sorry? Like, because he keeps stumbling into these really emotional things, but he's not an emotional character yet.
Right. He keeps stumbling into everybody's triggers.
Yeah.
Because literally everybody is traumatized because it's literally the end of the world.
Right.
And he can operate as a member in a society to a certain extent that facilitates getting in and out of clubs and seducing people to go off in a room with him.
What does he call it? His hoodoo? His eye
hoodoo? Voodoo, eye voodoo.
That you do so well. Yeah, the hoodoo voodoo you do so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not functional. He's not like he can't really
he's not
pass.
Fluent.
Yeah, he's not fluent in like people.
Yes, he's conversational in people.
But he's not fluent. So every once in a while we run into his lack of fluency. For sure. But he picks up with them pretty quickly. He doesn't kill Abner because they shoot him. That's the only reason he doesn't
Right, he
kill
gets
Ebby.
interrupted.
He gets interrupted. And then Kayla comes out and he's like, oh shit. Like he immediately recognizes there's something different about Kayla.
Yeah, I like the foreshadowing. That,
Yeah.
okay, there's something about this character that is not necessarily like an aspect of reality
Yeah.
is different about her, but to Coburn,
Yeah.
Kayla means something to Coburn.
Yeah. Almost immediately.
Yep.
And she proposes the plan of like, okay, you provide protection and we will provide food and you don't kill us because this isn't a situation where you have unlimited sheep anymore. You need to be a shepherd. And he's like, yeah, I'm a fucking shepherd.
I'll be the best fucking
I'm
shepherd.
the best fucking shepherd. Well, he threatens her a little bit first. And then he's like, listen up, sheeple. And he's like, you are now my flock. I am the boss, which is what I like. This is Cream Puff. Nobody fucking touches Cream Puff. And I'll sleep where I want to sleep. And you guys have to wait for me. Great. Thanks. And I do love the foreshadowing dreams too. Because we foreshadow where we're going to get with Coburn pretty immediately. Like we don't understand the significance of like the little girl with the blonde pigtails for a long time, but we see them. We see her because Kayla kind of reminds him of her. And this is where we start to get the split in Coburn where he is not just this one-dimensional monstrous character. We start to see that he is as much a victim of the monster as everybody else is. Because I do like that. Like the hungrier he gets, the more insistent the voice gets. And it's like unhinged. Rip their arms off and beat them with it. Like,
I'm trying to remember. There was another story where there was this completely unhinged voice.
Wheel of Time with
There was that, but then there was it wasn't as visceral. Like there's another voice that I remember minded of as like this wild, like violent chattering in the back of their head that's like as graphic and gory as Coburn's monster voice. But I can't remember it.
Right, well,
I can't remember where
it
comes from. Yeah.
Comes to you, let's just interject.
As usual.
Yeah, as usual. But I do like this portrayal of vampirism as like there is a compulsion to do these things. And he is actively fighting the compulsion to do what he wants.
It's kind of like Dexter's Dark Passenger.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a Dark Passenger where he is constantly compelled to kill them. It's not just a hunger thing. It's just like a craving violence thing.
Yes, it's a craving for action, and the voice.
Yeah.
There's the voice, like there's another personality in your head that's sharing control of your body.
Right.
And the more you feed it, the more you get to stay in control.
Right. Yeah. And we seed a lot of what's going to be like, I mean, we seed everything almost immediately. He drops almost all of the main plot points right in the first like 4 or 5 chapters because we get the hunters. And then his first test as their shepherd is like, okay, we want to go out west. But the only way to get out west is to go along this highway. And there's a Walmart right by the highway, and that's where all the cannibals live. And they have these spike strips over the road. If we try to go, they'll shoot us and they'll kill us and they'll eat us. So that's why we're stuck here on the East Coast and we want to go west. And he's like, well, why do you want to go west? What for? And they're like, oh, well, there were missionaries that came from the west and they came through the woods, but we don't want to abandon the Winnebago. So we need your help. And he's like, oh, missionaries, really? You fell for that?
That sounds like the cannibals sent people to lay down some stories that would motivate people to pass by the cannibals.
Yeah. And he says it, he's like, it's so obvious. Why don't they see it? Oh, because I think like a predator and they think like prey.
Yeah.
And they tell him, no, it's from the Sons of Man. And he's like, oh my God,
And
the
then
fucking Sons of
then
Man.
Coburn gets triggered.
Yeah, Coburn's like, oh, fucking Sons of Man.
And
No,
he
no.
Nick Knight flashbacks.
Yeah. Well, we don't get the whole Son of Man flashback. We just know that at one point, I think they hunted him. We don't get the full sense around, this is what happened.
It's pretty soon after she says the name Sons of Man.
Is it we find out they cut off his middle finger? I don't think we find that out until after we meet the people in the 66 states.
No,
he gets the full...
I'm pretty sure it's before that. I think it's shortly after the cannibal.
Oh. Well, we find out eventually some point in the book that the Sons of Man are the reason he was under the theater in the first place.
Right.
He can't quite remember for a long time. He describes it as like every time he tries, it's like turning on the light and the memories scatter like roaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he basically got hunted by them. And they're like a blue-collar group of people that got tired of being... Cult. That got tired of being preyed on by monsters, specifically him, I guess, because he's like the only one.
He's the only one they could track down.
Yeah. And so they find him, and they end up chasing him into this theater. He flips them off, and the guy cuts his middle finger off. That's why he's missing his middle finger when he wakes up. Yeah. And then the theater explodes. And
yeah, they set bombs
underneath of it. Yeah.
They were thorough.
They were very thorough.
Yeah.
They didn't hunt him down and like cut his head off, but that's okay.
Right. And
it's fine.
They probably didn't know the full extent of
how unkillable
the mechanics of how vampires work. Because he gets later somebody else like rams a wooden pole through another vampire, like through their chest, and is like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, you gotta, just like zombies, you have to destroy the brain.
Yeah. Yep. And anyway, so those are the Sons of Man. We get that sort of piecemeal throughout the entire book. But this is his first test as the shepherd, is like, he has to stop the cannibals. And he's like, okay, I'll give you a signal. And they're like, what's the signal going to be? He's like, I don't know, a fucking signal. You'll figure it out.
You'll know.
You'll know. And so he ends up sneaking up on this Walmart. And the whole Walmart scene is traumatizing. Like
we get some nice exploration of Coburn's skill set. Yes. Like he, moving, sneaking, seeing in the dark, all that stuff. And he can be cautious because he's like, oh, there's the front door. Nah, I'll go around back.
Yes.
The vampires going around back.
The thing.
Is a thing. And so he goes around back. It's all blocked up. But then, he hears somebody sleeping. He's like, I'll surprise him and get him to open the door to check out the noise that he just heard. Yeah. I'm good at this stuff.
I'm so fucking good at this. But then he gets almost immediately captured. Like he gets his legs blown off.
He rampages through like 5 people in the Walmart. Yeah. It's just he gets snuck up on by the guy in a wheelchair, I think because he doesn't make footstep sounds.
Yeah. Then he gets his legs blown off. Yeah. And then at some point he loses, I don't know, eventually he ends up just a torso. I think they blow his legs off and then they put him in a dog kennel and they put him on the roof.
Yes, they put him on the roof and he's like all of his extra blood's leaked out. So he doesn't have...
He can't regrow his legs.
Yeah, he can't regrow anything. He can't get any surges of strength. And I like how his body isn't any more durable than a human's in general. Right. But he can actively reinforce or strengthen it with blood by like burning blood. Yeah. And so he has the same limitations of like leverage and just like, he can't pull so hard because his tendons would literally rip. Right. And he could make himself pull that hard, but then, his arm would like rip off at the wrist or something. Yeah. And so he has some constraints based on the fact that he was a human first. Yeah. And he's in a human body that's reinforced with blood. Yeah. And so he gets into the cage and it's like a solid, like reinforced metal cage. a human would not be able to escape from this, so he cannot escape from this in his
Right.
current state.
Yeah, but he does the key thing. He's like, I have the key on my tongue.
Yeah, most of the time, probably most of the books I read, the characters are either too moral or too proud
Yeah.
to do what is necessary to survive. But Coburn is
No, Coburn is neither one of those things.
one of the best compliments I've gotten, like in my career, is somebody who told me, "You're scrappy. Like you just use whatever you have around you and make it work." Right? Coburn is like
he's pretty
scrappy.
fucking scrappy. Yeah.
And he's not proud.
No.
He will his pride will not stop him from doing something that will ensure his survival.
Right.
His pride might stop him from doing something that would embarrass him in front of like people when he's in a like safe fed place.
Yeah.
When he has room to care about being embarrassed.
Yeah, okay. He chooses pride, but he's always choosing it. He's not married to it. He could drop it in a heartbeat.
Oh, great. I need to get somebody to literally bite my tongue.
Yeah, I need to bite somebody's tongue.
I need
to
get somebody to stick their tongue in my mouth.
Stick something in here.
Oh, this grungy dude in the cage next to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah. And it's a very predator like, I don't care what you think about me. I intend to kill you. Your thoughts on this matter are irrelevant.
Right. Like large cats, if they get caught in a trap, they'll literally chew their leg off to survive.
Right.
Right. Coburn will do all of that.
Right.
To survive.
Yeah. So he does
pure pragmatism.
Yes. He's extremely pragmatic. It's a different character. Very different from the last couple of books that we've read together, because we did Paul Atreides, just a super thoughtful, super like, okay, let me rifle through all of the potential consequences of the action that I'm just about to do and make sure that nothing absolutely horrific is going to happen if I do this. And then we read Babel, which was like every character was thinking in 3 different languages, 4 steps ahead and 5 steps back in another 2 languages. And then you have this character that's like, I need somebody to stick something through this bar so I can bite it. I've got a key on my tongue. And the guy's
I think the other part of Coburn that I like is he's always winging it.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely always winging it, because the consequences of failure are death. But the consequences of not trying are death.
He doesn't strategize.
No, there's no strategy.
He's all tactics, no strategy.
Yeah. So it works. He gets the guy to stick something through and he bites it, and he gets just enough that he's able to get out, get a gun, and he explodes their kerosene tank, their fuel tank. And the people in the Winnebago take that as their signal, which it kind of is, which this is kind of a pivot point. You wouldn't think that Coburn legless preparing to like shoot this thing is a pivot point, but it is, because he can use the gun to save himself, or he can use the gun to signal them.
Right.
And
to his own detriment.
Choose.
Right. He has to choose whose survival am I prioritizing.
Right, because the sun's coming up. He's literally he is about to burst into flames, and does he kill this guy and save himself, or does he blow up the tank? So he blows up the tank because it will critically weaken them. He'll critically weaken the cannibals so that his sheeple can get through down the highway.
And he's just hoping, I've survived everything else so far.
Right.
If I get to define my safety rating as I haven't ended my existence yet, I still have a 100% safety rating.
Yep. Isn't it great when you can
sorry, I didn't mean to use the word safety there.
Oh, did you not?
I meant to say success rating.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah. Then we cut to our people in the Winnebago, because they're trying to get down the highway. And so they're picking up the spike strips And this is still tricky because some of the cannibals are still shooting at them. There's still zombies coming for them. There's a lot happening. And then they're going to, they get through it. I mean, no part of this book feels easy. You never feel like, oh, that was too easy. But they end up getting through it. They have to shoot a couple of zombies, and we find out we never drive over zombies. Like, we cover that. That's like a rule. We don't drive over zombies. And then now they have to make a decision. We're supposed to be waiting for Coburn. But if we don't wait for Coburn, we may be able to lose him. And Gil is like, yeah, we're not waiting for Coburn. He's an asshole. He's going to kill us. We're going to leave him.
He's literally a monster?
He's literally a monster. And I really don't think that throwing our hopes in with yet another monster is how we get through this. We used him for what we needed him for, and now we're going to leave.
Right. We're going to say, man, we were lucky to have just survived interacting with that monster the way we did. And then it's just gravy, the fact that we got a monster to help us get through this situation we wouldn't have gotten through. And we're just going to accept that as enough.
Yeah.
Enough risk for the benefit we got out of it. Now we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to cut that risk out of our lives and continue on.
Right. And they do. They just leave Coburn behind.
And the only one who's really upset is Kayla.
Yeah. Because Kayla's like, no, we promised we'd wait. And Gil's like, yeah, I don't really care.
Right. We have the
Abner's a little
idealistic
upset.
And naivete of Kayla, where she made a promise and she's upset that her dad broke his promise.
Yeah.
But then she also has this almost prophetic sense that
we need
she
Coburn.
knows, she has a feel of what's going to be happening and what needs to happen for survival.
What does Paul call that? He has a word for his future sense.
I don't remember.
I've forgotten it now.
But she has this similar sense to Paul.
Yeah, where he's just an intuitive sense of the future, like what steps need to be taken to get the optimal future.
And Kayla knows that Coburn needs to be with them.
Yeah.
And so she's also upset because without Coburn, she knows in a prophetic sense that they're going to die without him.
Right. And so we cut back to Coburn. Sort of. We cut back to Ambrosia, the cannibal queen, who is set up on some pallets in the back.
And kind of remarking about, here's this meal laid out before me of Coburn.
Cooked Coburn.
And
I gotta say, a lot of shit happens in this book. A lot of gross shit happens in this book.
But the Ambrosia scene.
The Ambrosia eating Coburn scene is probably
I thought it was interesting that
grossest.
Ambrosia was self-aware enough to she's narrating to herself, oh yeah, my people said it wasn't even the kerosene flame that cooked him.
Yeah.
He just looked like he was cooking from being out in the sun.
Yeah, don't they call it spontaneous human compression? Her grandpa does. He's like, they call that spontaneous human compression. Not combustion.
Convection.
Convection. Okay.
Yeah. and so she knows that there's she knows there's something weird going on.
Yeah.
Right? She even recites to herself, oh yeah, they shot his legs off, shot him in the chest a bunch.
Yeah.
And he's still alive enough to break out of his cage, get somebody's gun, and shoot the kerosene tank. And then it's not even the kerosene flame explosion that cooks him. They say it's like the sun was cooking him.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, here's this thing in front of me that's the result of all this, stuff I just said about this like body,
Yeah.
and now I'm going to eat it. And I think that, and it's not contradictory or anything.
No.
It just illustrates how far gone she is, that her sensibilities don't like give her a warning sign. Hey, maybe you shouldn't eat this.
Yeah.
And one thing I thought might happen was, if only for a short time, is that from eating Coburn, would Ambrosia turn into a vampire?
No.
But it doesn't happen. I think because Coburn doesn't have any spare blood.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't have any blood to give. At this point, he is a torso with a head on it. I don't even think he has arms at this
No,
point.
he doesn't have arms.
No. Because so she goes to eat his tongue and she ends up, I think, cutting her lip. Or she cuts herself. Somehow he gets some of her blood. And he ends up eating her tongue. Oh no, he bites her tongue because she sticks her tongue in his mouth.
She sticks
That's
her
what happens.
tongue in his mouth.
Yeah, to get his tongue out.
To pull to like suck his tongue into her mouth.
Yeah.
So she can bite it off.
Right.
And when she sticks her tongue in his mouth, he bites it.
Yeah.
And he sucks on it.
Right. Well, he ends up eating his way through her chest cavity.
Like down her neck. God. And like worm wiggling his way into her like chest abdominal cavity and just feasting.
Feasting. Thank you, God. And then he emerges like, I think they use several disgusting metaphors for him emerging from her like burst chest.
They talk about like his body moving around inside of hers, like under the skin, like
Chuck, are you okay?
There's just a sheet draped over her body because there's no clothes that'll fit her. And so it says through the sheet, you can see the skin like bulging and rippling and writhing. And then he bursts forth.
Yeah.
As like, he's got to be like naked, like
he is
pink
naked.
skin.
Yeah.
Like fresh human body bursting forth from Ambrosia. And Ambrosia's grandpa is like, well, shit. At least Ambrosia's gone, man. Like he's so traumatized.
Yeah, they're all just very
detached. He's detached from the emotional significance of what's happening. And he's like, well, like I knew she was gonna be a real problem eventually. And yeah, her appetites, man, they really screwed us this time. But I'll just ride this one out because man, those zombies are dumb.
Yeah.
And so he goes and locks himself in the bathroom.
Yeah, but the hunters are there, and they are not dumb.
The hunters are there.
Right. And Coburn ends up getting, like, pants and a shirt and a jacket, but he doesn't get shoes for, like, the rest of the book. My favorite part about the scene is when we revisit it after Kayla is in his head. And Kayla's like, there's a lot of shit in here, John. Or JW, I think she calls him.
She calls him JW to evoke the man he was.
Right. She's like, there's a lot of shit in here, JW. She's like, that thing you did with the cannibal queen at the Walmart, that's pretty fucking gross. And he's like, yeah, it kind of was.
And even for Coburn, because he spent his entire vampire existence in New York City with this like nice apartment.
Yeah.
Infinite food supply, easy access.
Yeah.
As a vampire, he's never really had to struggle.
Right.
So even for him,
that was gross.
This is the most traumatic experience of his existence.
It may be to illustrate what would happen if he wasn't in control of himself at all. That like you may think he's monstrous, but that's actually him not doing what he wants to do,
right?
Which is literally tunnel his way through your body and burst out
like
through
this.
your stomach.
This is what a vampire is capable of.
Yeah,
and from that you can extrapolate. Like, let's imagine a vampire like 500 years ago moving from town to town, like in secret,
Yeah.
how violent their life must have been.
Yeah.
And Coburn talks a lot about what he had to do or what his, tactics were for surviving, getting food in the city. And, he would just hoodoo voodoo some girl from the club
Yeah.
out to a room and then, drink some blood from her and then kind of erase her memories of that and set her back,
Sometimes.
release her back into the wild. And he said he did that most of the time because
It's
it's
easier.
hard to get rid of a body.
Yeah, it takes too long to get rid of a body. Getting rid of a body is
That's a lot of
inconvenient.
work, and I'm lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. He's like, no, that takes too much work. I think I'll take from a few. But he's like, but sometimes you kill him and then you got to get rid of a body.
Yeah,
Very unremorseful.
right. It's super pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, meh, it happens sometimes. Can't be blamed. But then he gets out. He meets up with Ginger, who's on
in the other
roof.
cage.
Yeah, who manages to survive in the other cage. And he smells like soap. That's why he likes him. He's like, oh, who smells like soap in the zombie apocalypse? Danny, which is actually his name, but Ginger. And he frees him and he's like, okay, well, I gotta go after my friends, but I don't know how to drive. I've lived in Brooklyn my entire life. Like, I don't know how to fucking drive. And so Danny's like, he doesn't say anything because he's mute, but he's like, yeah, I can do it. And so they end up on like a dirt bike.
Yep.
And they get to where the Winnebago should be, and it's not there. And what Coburn is like, those motherfuckers.
And Coburn is like legitimately like
Upset. Yeah,
betrayed.
because he finally tried to do something nice for somebody, and this is what happens?
Right. He actually did something like mildly altruistic.
Because he chose them. He
Right.
blew up the tank. He blew up the fuel tank. He, in his mind, he chose them.
Right. He literally died for them.
Yeah.
Right. And if he wasn't a vampire, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
Right. He made that investment in the relationship. He followed through on that level of commitment, and they couldn't even fucking wait for him.
Right. He's legitimately upset. And he's like, and they took my fucking dog because they got
To
creeped
top
up.
it off.
To top it off. So they hop back on the dirt bike and he's like, we're going hunting. And so they end up chasing it down. Well, he says like a bloodhound. He sniffs out the way and he tells Danny where to go.
Yeah.
And they find the Winnebago and it's been knocked over. And he's like, see what happens? See what happens when you don't keep me around?
So you made that comment when 'cause Rachel kept checking in on me when I was reading the book. Where are you at now?
Where are you at now? Yeah.
And I didn't see a line where he actually like made that remark
What
about see what happens when you try to go, whatever without me.
Well, he's disappointed. He's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
he's upset. He's like, seriously? You leave me? And you
He's
don't
like,
even leave me like,
He's
well?
I'm coming. Like, you left me. I'm hunting you because I am betrayed. I'm gonna like get some vengeance
Yeah.
for this betrayal. And then he gets there and he's like, shit, they're in danger. Now I gotta save them. And it like diffuses.
Well, he's not going to save them right away. He's like, kind of serves him right. And
right. And he stews on it. I skipped.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is it's not an immediate like, oh no, where are they? I have to help them. It's like, motherfucker. They wouldn't be in this situation if I was with them. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I feel like saving them anymore.
It's not even worth the energy to continue hunting them because whatever, like I'm pragmatic.
Right.
And maybe I'll just write them off and go do my own thing now.
Right. He's like, whatever, sun's coming up. I'm going to go take a nap. Danny, just fucking leave. He's like, Ginger, he calls him, because he doesn't know his name because the guy can't talk. And he never asks him to write it down or anything. He just makes up a name for him.
Right.
He's like, leave, whatever. Don't. Doesn't he like threaten him?
Oh, yeah, he scares them off. This is kind of a trope of usually it's an animal
Yeah.
that's following you. But this happens a lot in human dramas where you have to usually it's for when the protagonist is like, them staying with me is going to hurt them,
Yeah.
because they're going to want to stay by my side and assist me with whatever like dangerous thing I have
And
to
they're
do.
just a
So
liability.
I have to convince them that I actually don't like them so that they will leave.
Yeah.
But then they always come back.
Right.
In this case, he just doesn't want the fucking baggage
Yeah.
of Danny.
Yeah.
And so he's like threatening Danny, trying to scare him away.
And he does. He leaves.
He leaves, and then he gets out of the RV the next night, and Danny's there.
Right. Danny's like, I didn't go far. It's fine. No, but something happens when he's in the RV. He has a dream.
Yes,
This
and
is
I like
significant.
that he starts like remarking that I don't have dreams. I'm a vampire. I'm dead. I
Yeah.
don't have dreams. What the fuck is going on?
Well, this
I
is
wish
when-
these dreams would stop.
Yeah, this is when he's talking to Kayla, and he's like, kind of feels like you guys deserved this because you left me. And I don't owe you finding you. I don't owe you rescuing you. I don't owe you shit. But what's in the room behind you? And she's like, don't worry about that.
Well, isn't that the next one? This is the one where he sees someone that he thinks is, what's her name?
Kayla?
Kayla. He thinks it's Kayla, but Kayla's like
Has pigtails.
all bloody.
Yeah. Well,
And
he's
like, you didn't save me. And he's like, and then Kayla's like, what did you let happen to me?
No, that's a previous dream.
Okay.
This is one where he's talking to Kayla. And there's something in the room
Yes.
behind her. And every time
remember
he
that
tries to look through into the other room, like her arm blocks his view or the shadows fall.
Yeah, he's like,
just
this
wrong.
shouldn't be happening. Like,
He's
he's
like-
always aware that he's in a dream.
Right. And he's like, I should be able to just look in there. This is my dream. And she's like, I don't know what to tell
I'm
you.
bigger
Maybe-
than you. You're smaller than me. How can you block the doorway?
Right. And finally, she's like, we're in a farmhouse just down the way. There's zombies all around. She gives
that's
them a breakdown of what's going on. She's like, but you got to come and you got to save
Right.
us.
And
And
it
he's
was
like, I don't got to do shit, little girl. I don't got to come save you. You didn't have to wait for me. Sounds like I don't have to come save you. But what's in the room behind you? And so finally, he regains control of his own dream. And he's able to see what's in the room. But we don't find out what's in the room. He just looks in and he goes, hold tight. I'm coming.
yeah. And I really like Coburn's character arc.
Yes.
Like his, not necessarily redemption story, but it's more like
Oh, no.
his
He
full
never gets a...
right.
no. Yeah.
His full person, like the Coburn that we've been seeing is just the mask that he's been wearing to distract himself from the traumatic memory that he has repressed.
Right.
And so the character development of Coburn is not a redemption story. He's
No.
not becoming a better person. It's more he's waking up who he actually is
Yeah.
and letting go of this trauma repression mask that he's been wearing
Yeah.
just to survive as a vampire and keep doing the things he needs to do as a vampire. And so like later when Kayla's in his head, he mentions that the voice, the monster voice and the hunger are like way toned down.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, he says, like Kayla's presence made those go down. But I think it's the fact that he followed through on like sacrificing himself, like full awareness, full deliberateness, sacrificing himself for Kayla.
Yeah.
Or for Kayla and Gil, but really just for Kayla.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of discarded like the last pieces of the mask.
Yeah.
And the mask was amplifying the monster voice.
Yeah.
And so even if Kayla wasn't there, his monster voice would be reduced.
He integrated his shadow.
Yes.
Yes.
He integrated his shadow.
Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, psychologically speaking, you have a shadow self, your negative impulses.
Yes.
And you can view them as separate, or you can integrate your shadow and recognize
Right.
that it's
And
natural to have negative impulses.
It's things about yourself, like possibilities of what you could be that you haven't fully explored, usually because you've suppressed them. And that can be I wanted to be like an artist, or I wanted to
Whatever.
it can be like
Unexplored
violent
possibilities.
things, it could be whatever. And when you hide that, when you have this like a real desire to do something, and you push that down and just suppress it within yourself, it doesn't go away. It continues existing in your mind and growing. And all you're doing is letting it grow in an uncoordinated way, and it gets bigger, and eventually it pops up against your will. And so like actually letting yourself experience that and kind of existentially exploring, oh, I actually could do this. I'm actually capable of violence. I'm capable of, being a marathon runner. And it can be anything.
Yeah.
When you integrate that, you kind of discard this wild thing that's just moving around in your subconscious.
Yeah, you actually actually get to process it and file it away neatly instead of letting it become a pressure cooker.
And you kind of add it to your toolbox rather than, let the crazy rat live in your walls.
Right. Crazy rat living in your walls. That's Coburn's monster for the majority of the first book anyway. But I think this is my favorite pivot point for his character. The hold tight, I'm coming.
Yes. Right. Because now he's aware of the fact that he's choosing, like with the Walmart thing, he thought he was just going to get in and out with minimal risk to himself.
Right.
So it was very little investment for him going into the Walmart.
Yeah.
And the escalation was just, he was cocky and reckless. And if he had been more cautious, he probably would have been fine. And then the moment of choice between I shoot the guy I have this gun, I can shoot the guy that's about to shoot me and then drink his blood and recover and leave.
Mm-hmm.
But that will not generate the distraction and signal to help my flock.
Yeah.
Or I can use the gun to shoot the kerosene and help my flock.
Yeah.
But sacrificing myself. That was like in the crisis, decision in the moment, kind of just instinctive action.
Yeah.
Where he chose the flock. But this is now he has the time to actually think through it and be conscious of what he's doing, of the decision he's making. And even with his hyper pragmatism, he still chooses the flock.
Right.
And so he can't do that and hold on to this level of impartiality.
Yeah.
That he's been.
He can't just keep pretending he's just Coburn, the monster, once he does this. And so they end up taking their, he flips up the Winnebago.
Oh yeah, he burns through basically all his blood.
Check out this shit, is what he says to Danny. He's like, watch this shit. And he props it back up.
Once again, he could have taken a moment and planned this and had a little bit more efficient use of his blood.
Yeah. No.
But
I love how impulsive this character is.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. Because usually we create these male characters that are like hyper competent, hyper intelligent, super thoughtful, very like, I'm going to work my way through this. I have all kinds of ninja. I have a certain set of skills. They're going to get me through. No. Coburn's like, well, I need the Winnebago up. Check out this shit, Danny. I can lift it all by myself.
right, it's like the opposite of Batman. So like
Yeah.
the trope about Batman is Batman plans through every possible scenario, and in every possible scenario, he has a plan for him winning
Yeah.
at minimal risk to himself. And so when Batman's like, okay, I have time, and then I choose to do this, it's going to go exactly how Batman plans it.
Yeah.
Even if the viewer reader is unaware. It's, like the heist stuff. They say, okay, here's what we're doing, but you don't see what the plan's going to be. You only see the outcome, and you get the kind of twist, surprise,
Right.
clever thing that they figured out, whatever. Coburn doesn't have that clever twist, surprising plan.
WYSIWYG for Coburn.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. Very much.
I like it.
And so they end up lighting the dirt bike on fire and using it to distract the zombies. And then he has like a torch, and he's trying to get the zombies to chase him through the woods. And I think this part is hysterical because he's trying to get the zombies to chase him, but they're not fast.
They're too slow.
So he keeps outrunning them and having to go back. And he's like, come on this way. Let's go. Come on, zombies. And I always like it when the zombies are manageable. They're manageable in like if I'm on open ground, I can handle a number of zombies, a certain number. Over a certain number, they get
several point of view characters that describe the zombie menace as an environmental hazard.
Yeah.
Where with just a little bit of preparation, with a little bit of thinking, and like as long as you're like a healthy mobile human, like the zombies are actually not that much of a risk.
Right.
It's only when you're unprepared or careless.
Yeah. And everybody's in this farmhouse. And we get a bit of point of view from Kayla, which we've gotten some Kayla intermixed into it anyway. But we find out like Lily got bit. She gave her some of her blood, so she's not going to turn into a zombie, but the damage is still there. She still got bit.
Right. And I think this is where we find out what makes Kayla special. Or maybe they said it before.
It's because when she invites Coburn to stay with them the first time, Gil yells at her. And she has a little bit of inner monologue about how they know she's special because she gave Lily her blood previously.
Right.
And it fixed her.
Her kind of flashback is that Lily got bit. She had like a prophetic sense that
just give her blood.
Just like prick your finger and stick it in Lily's mouth.
Yeah.
Because your blood is special. And it didn't like, superpower heal Lily, but it stopped the zombie infection.
Right. And that's when she storms off into the woods and passes out.
That's right.
And she gets bit. And then Coburn rescues her, and he's like, please keep your hands and arms inside the ride at all times. Yeah. And runs her back to the Winnebago.
Yeah.
And that's our first like, oh, okay. He's willing to do things for Kayla that he's not willing to do for anyone else. Because he goes out and rescues her, knowing full well she is not a viable food source. Because he tells her, I'm not even interested in you. You smell bad. What's wrong with you?
Right. And I think that's probably the initial thing that stops him from immediately drinking her blood when she's negotiating the deal with him. Is they go off into the field, and he's like, I could just like kill you here right now and then go back and kill everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, even if I tell you, I'm making a deal with you, I can break that agreement at any time. I have no qualms about, eating my words. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And then he's kind of like,
you are not dealing with an honorable character.
Right.
Yeah.
But in that moment, he's like, actually, I don't, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, you don't smell good. What's wrong with you? And she's like, oh, multiple myeloma. I've literally have cancer in my bones.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that sucks. Yeah. But fast forwarding back to the farmhouse, we find out that Lily got bit like in the back of the ankle. So it hurt her Achilles tendon. She'll probably walk, but she may not walk correctly ever again.
Right. She's wounded, but because she got some of Kayla's blood,
She's not going to turn into a
she's
zombie.
not going to turn into a zombie. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then they end up, of course, he rescues them through a series of events, but he accidentally also creates more hunters. Oops. And he's like, I'm not dealing with this. And he just runs away.
Just like everything else, I'm running away.
Yeah, I'm going to run away.
just like all of my other problems,
Yeah.
I'm running away from them.
And then we montage for a little bit because they're traveling for a while and we get a little bit of like, well, first Coburn confronts Gil because it was Gil's decision to leave him behind. And he's like, the only reason I'm not killing you is because you didn't hurt Cream Puff. But he ends up breaking Gil's fingers.
Yes, I do like that as a consistent part of the Coburn character.
Yeah.
Is that that feels like something Harry Dresden would do.
Yeah.
Like, I recognize the value in you being alive, but you hurt me.
Yeah.
It may not look like it because I have a whole fresh new body.
Yes. Do you know what I did? Do you know what I went through for you?
But I'm going to hurt you back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hurt you back in a way that doesn't completely disable you, but it conveys my emotions to you.
Yeah. And it reminds the reader that Coburn is not the good guy.
Coburn is not a moral character.
He may have just done a good thing, but that doesn't make him the good guy.
Right.
He is not a good dude.
He's not the stereotypical moral character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we montage a little bit. And this is where we get like, he's hungry all the time because he can't feed the way that he wants to. And so the monster voice is like insistent and like maddening. And it's making him cranky. And Gil is upset because Gil blames himself. And no one is dispelling him of this myth because it's true. He really did. This really is his fault.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The only like thing that I wish we would quit harping on is the fact that Gil is having sex with Cecilia. Like every time we see anything from anybody's point of view, we have to make a comment about how Gil is, quote, laying pipe to this like 20-year-old girl.
And that's probably rooted in like how old Chuck Wendig was
when he wrote
this.
Yeah. I love how everybody thinks Gil is older. He's like, oh, old man. He's like, I'm not even that old. He's like,
I'm like 50.
I'm only like 50. He's like, I don't know. Maybe I look older. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. At one point when he's with the whole like troop of kids.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah. But if I was all cleaned up, I probably wouldn't look that old. But with all the grime and just stress and the wounds and stuff, I probably look in my 70s. Okay, fair point, children.
Yeah. And then we get to probably the second most unhinged part in the entire book, which is the 66 states.
Oh, man. I was not prepared for this. Rachel did some of the things Rachel kind of... Rachel will be like reading a book and I'll be sitting on the couch next to her and she'll be like, I need to read you this paragraph. I didn't get any of those sneak peek paragraphs about King Thuglow.
No, King Thuglow. Wow. I know. Because the Winnebago breaks down and they have to walk, which I love this part. Because he's like, Lily can't walk. And they're like, you can't fucking kill Lily. And he's like, I'm going to carry her. Would you fucking calm down? Like, I'm just saying she can't walk. I'm not leaving her behind. I'm going to carry her. And Abner's like, what about me? And he's like, you did that to yourself. You got to walk. Poor Abner. He's like, who is still fat in the after the zombie apocalypse? I don't know.
It's a glandular disorder.
Ugh. So they end up walking to the nearest town. But when they get there, it's stripped clean. The zombies are all killed and piled
Oh,
up in the middle.
one note I wanted to make.
Okay.
We encounter several like large, like maybe not obese, but chubby characters. And every time we see someone like overweight, that is a like secret signal
Yeah.
that, oh, this is a parasitic individual that is like the guy by the river.
Yeah.
That is the cannibal.
Yeah.
That's enticing people in and killing them. And
Ambrosia.
And it's always somebody like sociopathic or parasitic on on
The
people,
type of people that
they
can,
encounter
that can flourish in after a zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
But not Abner. Okay.
That's where I'm getting.
Okay.
But not Abner.
No.
Right? With Abner, it's, I don't know, something's up with Abner.
Yeah.
But that reminds me of in The Wheel of Time, in the first book, The Eye of the World, when Rand and Matt are traveling by themselves on their way to Baerlon or whatever the city with the castle, and Rand has the flute. Rand has the flute, and he got some training on how to play it and from Tom Maryland.
Yeah.
And Matt has some like sleight of hand stuff that he does. And so they
use that to
as
make
they're
money.
traveling, they do that to pay their way through staying at inns.
Yeah.
And Robert Jordan does a good job of like describing the stereotypical innkeeper as this like large, jovial, charismatic person.
Yeah. Oh, is this the one where they meet a skinny innkeeper?
And they meet a skinny innkeeper.
Yeah.
And that innkeeper betrays them.
Right.
And so Matt ends up with this rule in his head.
Never trust a skinny
Never trust a skinny innkeeper.
Yeah.
Based on this one experience. Well, and he had experiences with lots of innkeepers. And then the first skinny innkeeper, he got betrayed.
Right.
And so that becomes a rule in his head, like throughout the rest of the series, which he like accurately applies this rule a couple times as they're traveling around. And he's like, oh, no, that's a skinny innkeeper. We don't trust skinny innkeepers. But I like that parallel.
Yeah.
Like in a functioning society, the innkeepers are all charismatic and overweight.
Yeah.
But in the zombie apocalypse, only the psychopaths and sociopaths are charismatic and overweight.
Right. Yeah. It's
I think
a choice.
It's a low level heuristic that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Except Abner. He's just Abner. He's
Right.
got like a secret stash of candy. He's just like, I don't know. He's exactly what you would imagine if you had
Like a sedentary
software developer who spent his entire life playing video games and working on the computer. And then all of a sudden they have to go out. And usually when we have those characters, they're like the character from World War Z, where they end up becoming this like battle hardened warrior.
Right.
And instead, like, that's not everybody. Everybody isn't going to go from like, I literally can barely walk out to get the mail to I am like cut and I can kill anyone with a baseball bat. It's not real life. Some people are going to struggle, and poor Abner struggles. And it's funny because Coburn gives him shit for it all the time. And he's like, walking will do you good. And so he ends up carrying Lily for like 8 miles or however far they have to walk. And when they get to this town, it's empty.
It's been stripped.
It's been completely stripped. The zombies are killed. And then there's like graffiti all over everything. That's like Brother Thug Low.
And the like church signs where you can rearrange the letters
Yeah.
are all have different messaging about Thuglo or
Yeah. The
you know,
66 states.
Thuglo ain't nobody's bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 66 states. And they're like, what? There's not 66 states, though. There's only 50. And Gil's like, it's because it's Route 66. Get it? This is Route 66.
Have you not seen the Cars franchise?
And then he starts singing the song. And they're all like, would you shut up? But they end up walking to the next town. Or they're going to try to walk to the next town. But instead, they are met with a wall. Instead,
Yeah, they get to the next town.
No, they don't. They get interrupted by the wall.
Right.
And the like door slides open and a Humvee comes out. And this is when we meet the entire Juggalo army, I guess you might want to say, where it's like a gang of people. But I love the part that they all have these made up names. They're like Dope Fiend and Crackhead.
And most of them are like committed to the character.
But not all of them.
And I like the point of view scene that we get with the one guard at the gate. And he's like, like, I think he uses his own name to himself, and he's like, oh, wait, no, it's like this made up.
Yeah, it's Juggalo so name.
And the clown makeup, and Coburn's always smelling grease paint.
Yeah, because they're all wearing grease paint. Yeah. One of my biggest pet peeves in post-apocalyptic movies, novels, stories, comic books, anywhere you find it, is the aggressively competent asshole dude who carves out a little society for himself and ends up ruining the plot. It happened in Vesper, it happened in The Walking Dead, it happens in pretty much every post-apocalyptic zombie or otherwise, is you get this one dude who likes to be king of his little fucking world, and he just fucks everything up.
And
he disrupts the hero's journey.
It's always like fundamentalist Christian vibes.
Sometimes, but it's always just like, I've always wanted to be king. I've got plenty of little don't tread on me stickers, and now nobody's going to tread on me because I'm king, and I'm not giving it up for anything, even if it means the world gets saved. So usually they interrupt the hero's journey. And we have that. We have the setup for it completely.
Right, for that trope. Yes.
Because we interrupt the hero's journey. They get taken to
into
meet
this
Brother
little autonomous
Thuglo.
kingdom.
Yeah.
He's even called the king.
We're rolling right to it. And then we find out that King Brother Thuglo is just like he's just a stoner dude who somehow...
He's a failure to launch stoner dude.
Who somehow lucked into being like leader of this.
He bluffed his way into like being a charismatic visionary leader.
Yeah.
And people were so desperate for any source of authority that they latched onto him.
Yeah.
In a delusional way, but it caught on. Like it was self-sustaining enough.
Yeah.
That it worked.
But he's absolutely not that character, which I love, because we played chicken.
He doesn't actually run anything.
We played chicken with that trope, and the best way we could play chicken with that trope. Where right when we got to the point where, he even sends he splits the party. He sends the characters off. Kayla and Cecilia are gonna go be hookers, I guess. I think that's what he calls them. And like Gil's gonna get killed. They're gonna shoot Gil
because he attacked Thuglo. Yeah.
And then I forget what's gonna happen to Abner. Doesn't really matter. And then he keeps Cream Puff.
Yep.
And they think Coburn has abandoned them because Coburn like sneaks through the gate. He puts his finger over his lips to tell Kayla to be quiet, and then he just disappears. And she's like, fucking Coburn, he disappeared again. And then we have like a really weird series of events. So the Sons of Man are coming because we find out that the Sons of Man's like kingdom is at war with the 66 states, because the 66 states is in an old Air Force
and that
base.
Is the trope, like fiefdom.
Yes.
Where it's the hyper competent, like toxically masculine character.
Yeah.
That's assembled this community
Right.
This self-sustaining community of, they have whatever everything operates nice and cleanly, but they're very like authoritarian.
Right.
And they know that Thuglow has a lot of resources at this Air Force base.
Yeah, Bricker. Isn't that the guy's name?
Brickert.
Brickert.
Benjamin Brickert.
Yeah. Yeah. So Benjamin Brickert is the leader of the Sons of Man, and he wants the
Benjamin
resources.
Brickert is the guy who
blew up
cut
Coburn
off
and blew
Coburn's
up,
finger.
Yeah, and took it.
And
Yes. And he's.
I really liked that twist.
Yes. I didn't tell you about it at all.
Nope.
I did so good. But he basically wants the jet fuel. Like there's jet fuel and munitions at the Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And that's what he wants. And they won't give it up. And they keep thinking they're just going to be able to ride in there and take what they want. But they're just organized enough that they keep them from being able to do it. So they're
right. It's like let's say in the engineering field, a lot of times you have a manager that isn't like a technical person.
Yeah.
A non-technical manager who's in charge of like a group of individual contributors that are, technical experts. They're the subject matter experts. They're the technical know-how. They produce solutions, whatever. And you can end up in these situations where the non-technical manager thinks that they know more than the people they're managing about what their subordinates do for their day-to-day responsibilities. And if they try to micromanage their direct reports, those direct reports are really going to be like limited in what they produce, because it's rather than you can tell your direct reports, okay, you do this task this way.
Yeah.
And they'll kind of figure it out. Or you can say, we need something that performs this behavior or achieves this goal or provides this this service, whatever. And then say, go figure out how to do it. And I don't know. You're literally the expert in this. You figure it out. And in the second situation, the non-technical manager, they only need to be able to kind of measure, does the final product work?
Yeah.
But when you give a lot of autonomy to your direct reports, they can come up with interesting solutions.
Right.
They may not be efficient,
but they're effective.
Yeah. They're usually effective. It may take longer for them to finish it. They may not you may not get a lot of status updates because there's not a lot of like metrics along the way, because it's not a known path to be traveled.
Yeah.
And Thuglow inadvertently,
yes,
through his obliviousness, has basically tasked his lieutenants with ensuring the security of the 66 states.
Right.
He probably, is laying in bed, taking hits off his bong, being like, we need walls.
Yeah.
We need to be safe. Nothing can get through those.
You know what makes you safe, man? A wall. That's what we fucking need. We need a wall. They're like, yes, Brother Thudlow.
Whatever we need to do to get these walls. And just make sure, like, a zombie can't get through them.
Yeah.
And so then you have these, like, 3 or 4 guys that are like, all right, I have some ideas. Oh, you have some ideas too? All right, let's, oh, yeah, we have all these cars. Okay, we have power and we have fuel and we have, like, heavy machinery on the Air Force Base. Oh, yeah, we can totally pile these up. Oh, hey, this guy that just wandered in that we just assimilated he's been a welder for like 30 years.
Yeah, let's use that now.
He's got some really cool ideas
Yeah.
about how to make something structurally sound because he's been building like ships for 20 years or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying is we play we play with this trope in the best possible way. By creating what is effectively like not a pretty, but a semi-functioning society.
Right.
Without like a strong, overbearing religious leader.
Whereas we get a sense that in the Sons of Man town, I don't know, but I'll just call it Sons of Man
I think
town.
they call it Sons of Man. Yeah.
And I get the sense that their town is much more
micromanaged,
designed. Like, oh, yes, we're going to have a fence, but yeah, Brickerton has a vision of what, he's been fantasizing about, a homestead for 20 years.
This is the prepper guy. It's like a prepper guy, but not like the cool prepper episode from This Is Us. This is like the prepper guy that believes the reason that they survived is because they deserved to survive.
Right.
And the only people who get to come in and take advantage of their hospitality are also people who deserve to survive, and that they have solely been given the authority to decide who deserves to survive and who doesn't. And so he is the embodiment of the trope that I hate. But I don't mind it the way that we fold it into this book, because he does not really stop our hero's journey in the way that they normally do.
Right.
And Chuck Wendig in this book is very good at subverting tropes. We go from, the Lamo, the last man on earth, the guy who's going to save us all by being leader of this tiny fiefdom, to Brother Thuglow. And then we also have a hero character, a protagonist, who is not the good guy. He's not a heroic character. He's a hero without being honorable. And a lot happens in this segment because we get the Sons of Man coming to attack the 66 states. We have the hunters who have been hunting Coburn this entire time.
And now the 4 of them are together.
Right. So we have them attacking the 66 states. And then we have the party is split. So sun sets and Coburn shows up because Coburn rode on the bottom of the Humvee. That's how he got in.
And hid out in a house during the day.
Right. And I love that part where he hears Kayla's voice in his head instead of his monster. And she's like, don't just kill him. And then he goes in the bathroom and there's child porn. And he's like, justification achieved. And he just goes back and kills the guy.
Yeah, and he hears no comment from Kayla's voice in his head.
He's like, see, told you he deserved it. And so he kills the guy. And then he goes to talk to Brother Thuglow. And Brother Thuglow is so funny because he got the bong smashed over his head. And so the lady's picking glass out of his head. And he's like, they just don't appreciate me, man. And then finally he's like, I'm done. I don't want any more glass picked out right now. Like, let's just have sex and go to sleep or whatever. And this is when Coburn shows up and he's like, where are my people? And Brother Thuglow is immediately like, oh shit. Let me just spill the beans. Like, he immediately becomes a sympathetic character. He's like, well, I told them to kill that guy at sundown, but sometimes they're really slow about it. I don't know. Maybe they might not have done it yet. Meanwhile, Gil is beating people to death with a tricycle. And Kayla and Cecilia, everybody kind of breaks out of wherever they are. A lot happens. I'm not going to describe it all. We end up in this cafeteria and Coburn shows up. He falls through the ceiling and he's like, sup, sheeple? He's like, I'm here to save you. And this is when the hunter reaches down and pulls him out.
Yeah, he's like, all right, everybody, I'm here. We're good now.
Yeah. He's like, I got Brother Thuglow. We got the, which I forget what the guy's real name is, but I got Thuglow. I got a golf cart and we've got a helicopter. He's gassing it up right now. We're going to go get in the helicopter. We're going to get out of here. Shit's hit the fan. We got to flee. And they're like, okay, what's the plan? And he's like, and then whoop, he gets yoinked out. And he's basically he wants them to go. He doesn't want anybody to save him at this point.
Right. He's keeping the hunters distracted.
Right. And this is when we find out Lily has been going through some kind of transcendental experience.
Yes.
Because she has kind of glimpsed divinity through what Kayla is capable of doing. And so her trauma response to all of this is to
Like deify Kayla.
deify Kayla. And so she gets a hold of
or
a
at least
grenade.
like a messiah complex.
Right. In a very, like, it doesn't feel that way. It feels very much like,
Right. It's not like a toxic version of it.
no. Yeah, it's a very,
this is her anchor for finding meaning in the world.
right.
Making the world a meaningful place is my existence is justified by assisting Kayla.
Right. And so we end up having Lily sacrifice herself to save Coburn because Coburn is getting eaten by the hunters. And she walks up and just pulls the pin on the grenade. The grenade explodes. It kills all but one of the hunters.
Well, I like how she does it, where she throws one grenade to get their attention, and then she pulls the pin out of the other one, but is holding the lever.
Yeah.
But like hiding it. And then she waits for them to pounce on her.
Yeah.
And then she explodes herself.
And this is another transformative moment for Coburn because he's like, oh my God, somebody just killed themselves.
For me.
For me. And he ends up getting they're all getting in the helicopter. And then Kayla feels someone get in beside her. And she looks to see if it's Lily, but it's Coburn. And he's like, she goes, Lily, and he just shakes his head because he's kind of overcome in this moment.
Yeah.
And as they're flying away, he flips off Benjamin Brickert because he can't help himself. And Benjamin Brickert's like, somebody get me a sniper rifle. And he ends up shooting the gas tank.
Where if Coburn had not flipped off Brickert.
But he is not an honorable character. Our hero is not our most heroic character. And this is just he didn't even think it through. It didn't occur to him
it was just
that he
an
was
impulse.
It was just like, fuck that dude. And he just flipped him off.
Yeah. He goes through the cathartic act.
Yeah.
And there are consequences.
And then we have another pretty transformative experience for him because, like, the sun is coming up, the helicopter crashes, and they save him. They, like, wrap him in blankets. But when he wakes up...
And he has another long dream.
Yeah. Well, when he wakes up, everybody is dead.
Is this where he has the dream where he actually remembers what happens?
Yes, I think he actually remembers the fact that, like, he was... Well, he keeps seeing it over and over again because even in his memory, he's lying to himself about his role in this because he first sees the vampire kill his daughter and then attack him. And then it's like, no, that's not true because this is his, like, the vampire that created him is like, come on. That's not how it happened. Try again. And so he sees it happen again, except this time he gets attacked first. And then he finds out that he is the one who killed his own daughter.
Right. He was just sitting in his living room, like watching TV or something.
Yeah.
And this vampire Blondie, who we never find out.
We'd find out fuck all about him. Yes.
Blondie breaks in and kills him and then I think cuts his throat to feed. Blondie cuts Blondie's throat.
Yeah.
To feed blood to John Wesley.
Yeah.
And turn John Wesley into a vampire.
Yeah.
And then kind of eases vampire Coburn through the transition into vampire. And then, like, here, I think he had Rebecca tied up.
He has, yeah.
Waiting for Coburn to eat.
Right.
And then he's like, all right, here you go. And so then he's like, oh, shit, I ripped out her throat, whatever. And then he wakes up. And
everybody's dead.
In the helicopter, everybody is dead. Everybody has their throat ripped out.
Everyone is dead. He has killed everybody.
And he's like, oh, shit, I was reliving this memory of killing my daughter. And in reality, I was killing everybody else because, I got hurt in the crash and I just instinctively killed everyone.
Right, because he got really hurt. Well, he got really hurt when they were eating him. And then he gets in the helicopter and he realizes he's in this helicopter full of
dead people.
Of people he wants to kill.
Yeah.
Like he's immediately like, oh shit, I'm so hungry and I'm in
and the
here
monster
with them.
Takes over.
Yeah. And so he thinks he's killed everybody. And this is when he gets picked up by the Sons of Man. And he's like, I killed everybody. And they're like, mm-hmm. And then we kind of get our scenes with the Sons of Man, where we really get to find out, like, the villains in this are not the people you think would be the villains. Brother Thuglow's not the villain. Yes, there were villainous people in the 66 states, i.e. child pornography guy. But Brother Thuglow wasn't the bad guy. The Sons of Man, like, hyper-competent, hyper-religious, blue-collar guy is the bad guy.
He's not bad because he set up this, like, authoritarian society that's doing well.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy because he finds out they are on a mission to deliver a cure.
But he doesn't want there to be a cure.
He doesn't want there to be a cure.
Right. So
he's the villain because he thinks, well, because he actively works to maintain the status quo.
Right. So our honorable character is the villain, and our dishonorable character is the hero.
Right.
In this story. Because objectively speaking, Benjamin Brickert should be the heroic character.
And sees himself as the heroic character.
But he is not the heroic character. He takes them all the way to the lab. And it takes a long time because Coburn is a wise character, but he is not an intelligent character. It takes him a while to put all the pieces together, and he's finally like, hang on, why am I hungry? I should not be hungry. I should not still have all of the damage that I had from the hunters.
I shouldn't have this slash on my chest from, pink bathrobe.
Yeah.
If I drank, 5 people's worth of blood, I should be like brimming.
Yeah.
Why am I like starving and not healing?
Oh shit. And then they're there.
Self-awareness
he finally
has not been Coburn's strong suit.
He's new to it, okay? He's new to it. But I love how he gets the guy. Like, I love how he gets out because the guy, they're like, he's chained up. He's almost desiccated again. He needs blood immediately. He has no strength to get it. And the guy stands in front of him. He's like, your shoe's untied. He's like, there is one thing no human can resist. I know exactly what I need to do. He's like, your shoe's untied. And the guy leans down to tie his shoe, and he just attacks him.
Right. That's enough. That's close enough.
And then we get a really tragic ending. I mean, the ending is objectively and subjectively tragic because every character dies except Gil and Coburn.
Yeah, at the lab in the skyscraper.
Yeah, because as they're climbing the stairs, like first Abner stops and he's like, I'll wait here. You guys pick me up on your way down because he can't go any higher in the stairwell. And so the guy who's with them shoots him.
Yep.
Shoots him.
As soon as Abner is like, all right, I'm ready to take some more stairs. Yeah.
Right. And they get to the door and they ring the doorbell and the people in the lab are like, yeah, nice try, but no, we're not letting you in. And so they're like, okay, blow the door.
He's like, look at the marks on here. Somebody's tried to get in here with an axe. Somebody's tried to get in here with a battering ram.
Yeah.
We're not going to like bang or cut our way through this door. Luckily, we brought some explosives.
Yeah.
We're going to blow the door.
Right. And this is when Gil and Kayla and Cecilia, who are still with them, are like, what? No, you can't do that. Like, this is the lab. We can't risk harming the people in the lab. And they're like, oh, that's exactly why we're here, actually. And so Cecilia actually does something altruistic.
Yeah.
She's like, don't threaten Gil, and stands in front of Gil, and they shoot Cecilia.
Yep. Which gives Gil time to get his gun out. And
yeah. And they blow the door.
He shoots somebody and goes down the stairs.
Well, they end up blowing the door. They get in. Don't they get in the lab because they're killing people in the lab?
One of the women with the Sons of Man takes Kayla off into another room to keep her safe because they're still interested in preserving Kayla because I think this is even in Brickert's head. Like, if she is a cure,
then he gets to decide who gets it.
Then I should be the one that decide, or the sons of man should be the ones who decide who gets the cure.
Right. And meanwhile, there's like an infinite number of hunters because the hunter figures out how to make other hunters,
Yep.
how to share her blood, how to eat, because she eats all the other parts of all the other hunters.
And I like how we go with there's actually something supernatural
yes.
happening here. Because even from the beginning, when he's talking about how the blood works, like what he gets out of the blood, he drinks blood, but he doesn't pee or poop,
Yes.
right? Where does the blood go?
Right.
And it's not the blood itself, because human blood is way better than any animal's blood.
Right.
Even though, like, molecule-wise, they're basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the, like, level of consciousness or level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of... This is kind of where it reminded me of the passage, because in the passage, there's like a whole spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the vampire thing is you're connected to the spirit realm.
Yeah.
And you like draw energy. Like that's where you get your power from. And so I was thinking of it as like living things have like a conduit to the spirit realm, and
Yeah.
your level of consciousness, whatever, is like the size of your conduit
Yeah.
to the spirit realm. And the vampire doesn't have an active connection.
Right. They have to steal it.
They have to steal that connection to the spirit realm via the blood.
Yeah.
And as long as they keep this blood in their body, they have like a conduit that they can open and close to draw in energy to heal their body and
Yeah.
literally like generate matter. Because it doesn't matter like how much of his body is left. As long as he gets blood, he can regrow his
yeah.
body, and the like volume of blood consumed doesn't always match the volume of body regrown.
Yeah.
And so in the same way, the zombies these hunters are like consuming blood and gaining that conduit the same way the vampires do, but it's twisted.
Yeah.
And then the vampires kind of have a conduit to their maker.
Yes.
And so that's how they sustain their connection to...
And that's how he calls the hunters.
Yes.
Because he calls the hunters after the sons of man. Because he wants to die. And he knows the hunters can kill him. And so he calls them once he realizes that he can. And that's why they chase them all the way to Los Angeles. And why they're coming up the stairs, they're swarming the building, they're about to kill everybody. And he's like, okay, there's only one solution here. You have to kill me. Because at this point, we found out not only is he responsible for the hunters, he's responsible for the entire fucking zombie apocalypse.
Indirectly.
Well, he didn't do it. Brickert did. Because
Right,
Brickert
but
stole his finger.
It's his vampire-ness, his vampire essence that is responsible for.
Which, if you read it again, there's hints throughout the book. Like, the zombies are more active at night.
Yeah.
During the day, they just sort of roam around. And as long as you don't make a ton of noise, they don't even bother you.
And the sunlight kind of disables them a little bit.
It desiccates them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just slower than a vampire.
Yeah. So Brickert gave it to a friend who used it to create the zombie plague. Inadvertently. And so he ends up killing himself. Well, he has Kayla kill him, shoot him in the head. Because if you can destroy his head, you kill him. If you kill him, you kill everything he's ever made. So all the hunters die. So she shoots him in the head. But then she's dying. She's finally at the end stage of her cancer.
Right. She knows she won't survive a journey to... So they're in the lab, and they're still like...
One lady is alive enough to go,
dying.
There's another lab.
There is another cure lab.
Yeah, in San Francisco. And they're like, okay, great. We got to get Kayla to San Francisco. And Kayla's like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it to San Francisco. And so she jabs a letter opener in her
Yeah,
neck.
she grabs the letter opener.
And
When she's in the side office, she defends herself and kills the lady that's keeping her captive.
yeah, and she stabs herself in the neck and gives all of her blood to Coburn.
Yeah.
And then we find out that, like, now she's in Coburn's head.
Right.
And it ends.
It wasn't just her blood, it was her entire spirit.
Yeah, he gets everything. And because of that, I love that Gil's first response is to shove him out the window.
Yeah.
But the sun is rising, and he's like, oh, look at the sunrise. He, like, crushed a car. He's broken, and he's like, oh, look, the sun. It doesn't feel terrible. So we find out, like, she fundamentally changed him. He's no longer allergic to the sun. He isn't as hungry. He isn't as chaotic. He's a little bit more in control of himself. And we end with Coburn, Gil, and Cream Puff, the 3 remaining characters, preparing to go to San Francisco. And I think we should probably wrap part 1 here because we're at an hour and 45 minutes and we haven't even started talking about the novella. And as short as it is, a whole fucking lot happens in the novella.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
So we'll wrap it here, but we're going to record part 2 and it'll be out like pretty quickly. So if you're anxious to hear us talk about the second part, don't worry, it's coming. But until next time, friends.
Until next time.
Oh, wait, do you want to do? Oh, you do it.
I was waiting for a nice segue from you.
Okay, go.
So remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.